Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids, and in today's video, we got some news for you. We've got 10x champions to talk about a little bit, and also some crazy Razelvarg drama. Oh my god. You guys might know a little update here, puppy update. I'm late to all this drama, all this fun news because we are out collecting our puppy from the veterinary hospital. This is her in the car on the way home. It does look like I'm choking her. No, she put her head there. She wanted to cuddle up to sleep on the way home in the car. I'm sitting in the back with her, and this is her at home. As of just a few minutes ago, she's munching on a rabbit's ear. Actually, kind of weirdly ironic. It's something safe. She's a really chewy dog. Loves chewing on things. Rabbit ears are one of the safe things for her to chew on. I think there's a bit of irony there with Razelvarg. She's eating on one of these bad boys. Delicious. But yeah, she's happy out now at home. She had surgery. She had basically her urinary system. It's all sorts of wonky, which is really unfortunate. Just a genetic thing. Really rare. So we'll see how things go. Fingers crossed, everything's going to be okay. I think it's promising that she was incontinent. I think it's pretty promising that will be fixed up. But there's possibly like some kidney issues as well and stuff like that. So we'll see. I'm trying very hard not to get too stressed out by it. I'm not really succeeding, but we'll see. But she's happy out right now. Happy as Larry, munching on Razelvarg's ear. Let's talk about Razelvarg first. We'll talk about the 10x after that. So, my goodness, the drama that happened. Like, I haven't had time to read all the comments and stuff, but I did see a bunch of... Man, as I was in the car going to pick up Willow, I started reading some of the comments as they were first coming in, and people are calling to boycott the fusion. Like, people were pissed, and rightly so. So, essentially what happened is the patch went live, right? And shortly after the patch went live, people quickly realized that Razelvarg was not just nerfed, but massively nerfed. Let me show you an example here. So this was from Odd One Gaming, right? Odd One Gaming shared this in content creator chat. This was his Razelvarg clan boss run before, let me zoom it in, before the patch. So we can see like Riho, Seeker about 31 million each, right? Razelvarg with 63 million. After the patch, this is the result. So you can see Riho, Seeker, both about the same, 31 million. Razelvarg, 36 million. 63, 36. He's basically doing half the damage that he was before. Good news is, if you're watching this right now and you're freaking out, it has been reverted. This has been fixed. Plarium declared this to be a bug, which is interesting. We'll talk about that. But yeah, kind of crazy. He was doing half damage. What was going on? So, shout out to Ian Gaming, shared this, a content creator chat as well. But he's like, and I have to agree with him here. He's like, I don't know their intentions, but it's like there's no way you can do this change and think it works out the same. But it's really this line here that I want to focus on, right? Which is, so we can delete that. Feel free to read, but as he says, it's obvious the damage will drop hard, right? This was the old multiplier. So it's attack multiplied by 1.8 plus speed divided by 100. Let's break it down, right? So let's say an example, we have 5,000 attack, and then in the brackets, we can actually just copy and paste this another time here. Be 1.8. Let's say it's 300 speed, right? 300 by 100. So this is how it would work out. So we can then math it out a bit more simply, right? So let's do 1.8, and it'd be plus. Let's say it's 300 speed, it'd be plus 3. Or 5,000 multiplied by 4.8. Typically speaking, on an AoE attack, you know, about a 4 times multiplier is considered to be really, really good. Let me just quickly use a calculator here to work this out, because otherwise I might mess it up, which is very possible, happens all the time. So this would be 2,000, 24,000, right, is what that would actually give you. But you can see the speed, right? Upping his speed is actually increasing the multiplier, and then it's multiplying his attack, which is what it goes by. Again, a 4 times multiplier is pretty good. So cranking his speed up high, especially with his passive, really, and increased speed and all of the rest, really lets him do a lot of damage. Now, this other multiplier, if we put in the same number, so 5,000 attack, and then it'd be multiplied by 2.2, then you'd be adding on 300 speed multiplied by 1.8. So if we come in here, and you're going to quickly see why Yang is saying it's so obvious, right? So 5,000 by 2.2 is 11,000, and then plus, and then be 300 times 1.8, which is 540, right? And that comes, well, straightforward, 11,540 right there. And here we see, this is where about the half damage is coming in. Now, obviously, he's got, for Clown Boss Run, he's got about a good chunk of his damage is coming from Giant Slayer, which is flat, which is how we're coming out with half damage. You can see when we actually break down the multipliers, probably for most stat levels, it's even coming out as worse than half damage. And it's sort of your masteries are boosting it up to push it more towards half, balancing it out a little bit. But it's crazy. Again, the big difference here is that in the old version, speed is added on to the base multiplier. And this is also the fixed version as of now. This is how it does work, right? So speed ultimately multiplies into the attack. In this version that came in as a bug, speed is basically just added on, right? So all of the speed you're putting on, that 300 speed, basically added on to 540 extra damage. Whereas in this one, that 300 speed is, well, it's actually most of the damage. It's what? It's like 5,000 by 3. It's 15,000, right? So 15,000 damage from 300 speed versus 540 is quite a big difference. Yeah, it's quite an absurd difference. And that's basically what was going on, which is nuts. So yeah, this seems, again, if this is an intentional, if this was something they were testing out, it's very obvious that it's different. Is this a bug? Was it a bug? So I can totally understand, on one hand, how it could easily be a bug, in the sense that, look, it's clearly very different. Maybe this was how he was originally working, right? This is how he used to work. Maybe they changed it after that, before the fusion even came out. They were like, okay, we want to make this better. Let's change it up. Let's make it better, before the fusion came out, and they did. And this old version, maybe when they added in the new champions, they accidentally put in this new version and it went live and they went, oops, well, that was an old version of the game. We've accidentally added it back in. Oh, let's fix it. It's a bug. I can understand that. Maybe they want to nerf him and they were testing this out as a way to nerf him. And again, it accidentally snuck into the patch they pushed out when they didn't actually want to. Maybe that happened. It could be a bug. This seems too much of a change for it to be some sort of accidental, yeah, an accidental blip in the code. So who knows? What makes me skeptical about this is when they came out, you guys know, there's only been 2 things that I've really properly criticized Plarium on before, where I think they've made a very, very bad decision, like just very bad decision. Number 1 was the Hydra fix, which they reverted very quickly, like this one. So again, that's earning some skepticism. The biggest mistake they ever made was Fortis, right? So what happened with Fortis? Fortis came out. Fortis was, actually show them in game is probably better. Fortis came out, was pretty poorly received, a new Void Legendary. But what they did with Fortis, they did a guaranteed event for Fortis. They said 80 Void Shards, you get a guaranteed Fortis. We are going to be reworking Fortis. We're not telling you what that rework is going to be. We obviously know because we planned it out. It's coming out in a week. We're not telling you. Please buy 80 Void Shards and buy this champ. 80 Void Shards is about 250 per shard. It's probably about €200, like $200. Please give us $200, buy these shards, buy a Fortis. How's he going to change? We know, but we're not telling you. Please give us your money. Thank you. Goodbye. That was, again, increasing the prices of fusions is annoying, but like that doesn't bother me too much. But that Fortis thing is like, it's just such a dick move. I held it against it. I still do. It's like I said, it is the biggest and worst thing they've ever done. But what happened with Fortis? How did they fix him specifically? If you look, right, if you look at this skill, the damage of the skill increases by 10% every time a fear or true fear debuff is placed on an enemy. Now the base multiplier is 3.5, right? So you would think that they take the 3.5 multiplier and you'd multiply it by an extra 10% every time, right? So you'd multiply it by 1.1 if there was 1 fear out. If there were 5 fears out, you'd multiply it by 1.5 and so on. Or you'd multiply it by 150%, maybe to make it more clear. Let's say there was 10 fears out. You'd, 100% damage plus another 100%, but 200%, you multiply the damage, the 3.5 defense, by 200% to get the damage. That is how it should work. Now, this is why I'm skeptical, right? How did they actually change it? They've actually changed it like this. Again, very, very similar to Razelvarg. You see, there's no multiply here. We've got fear count in round by 0.1. That's fine. But they're just adding it on It's not a multiply. So um, it should be basically 1 plus, in bracket, 0.1 multiply fear count in round, close bracket, 3.5 times defense, right? It's what it should be. It should be multiplying, but very much like this Razelvarg change, and this is why Fortis doesn't really scale that much off the fears. It's basically adding it on. It's the plus symbol, which makes it this paltry amount of damage. That's basically what happened with Fortis. So if the damage to the skill increases by 10%, it doesn't. It literally does not do that. So this is a mistake they've made before. It makes me very, very skeptical about Razelvarg. This stuff. It makes me very skeptical. Again, maybe it was an old version that they got rid of, though. I think that is probably the most likely thing, and it showing up again is probably a bug. There's always the possibility they wanted to change him, and people were rightly outraged because, much like the Fortis thing, where people potentially went out and bought shards or saved void shards for ages to get this guaranteed Fortis, and then they changed him in a way that seems very, very bad. Honestly, it seems bad. With Razelvarg, people did the fusion. They also did a big event to get a 5-star perfect soul, and you really probably needed to buy shards to actually be able to do that. So people put in a lot, both in the fusion and potentially in that hero's path to get the 5-star perfect soul for Razelvarg. To then come out and cut his damage in half seems absurd. If they think he's overpowered, here's the thing. I'm not totally opposed to them nerfing a champion if they seem overpowered. I know a lot of you are. For me, I'm not, but I think the nerf should be small. So is Razelvarg overpowered? I don't think so. I think he's great. I don't think he's overpowered. I think it's totally fine. It works this way. But let's say hypothetically he was crazy overpowered. They should really realize this earlier, right? Preferably before he even goes onto the test server. And then if he is still overpowered, and sometimes this slips through, I can kind of understand it happening sometimes. Nerf them before they go live. It's happened a couple of times with epics, at least before it hits the live server. But doing a big nerf after it's gone live in these events, it's really bad. But if he was genuinely overpowered, maybe a 5, maybe a 10% nerf. I could be okay with that if he was overpowered. I do think there are overpowered champions in the game. I wouldn't mind them being nerfed, but certainly 50% is ridiculous. So that has been reverted, but there's a lot of questionable things going on there in my mind. A lot of questions. Right. On top of that, we've got 10x event for this weekend. It's a pretty weak one overall. So we have Steel Skull. Old school, he's okay. Increased defense and heal for your team. Single target heal some poisons. Steel Skull, he's middle of the road sort of healer poisoner for early game clan boss and dragon. Nothing special there, unfortunately. We have Anax, pretty good actually for he's one of the better ones. He's pretty good Demon Lord and potentially some dragon teams. Very squishy, but he does a ton of damage. He's decreased defense, decrease actually a bunch of poisons, and he has weaken as well. So weaken, decrease defense and poisons, and he hits extremely hard. So he is a very good clan boss champion. I know Deadwood likes him a lot. Venomage, also pretty good one here, coming in with the AoE poisons. Yeah, Venomage actually quite useful for a good chunk of stuff. So they are the regular shard epics. These are the ones you're most likely to get when you're going, or, yeah, they're from Ancients and Sacreds. They're the ones you most likely pick up while going for the Summon Rush for Jetney, if you are, which this is part of. So they're okay. Nothing too special, honestly. I think, Venomage is probably what people would want the most out of that. Anax might be okay, especially if you've got an unkillable team or block damage type team. For the Void Epics, the Void Epic is, again, I think fairly decent, but not crazy as Urogrim. Urogrim's a great champion. He's got AoE poisons and some healing. So he can do some solo stuff in the older dungeons. He's a decent champion for, like, the new Dragon and stuff as well. Dragon Hard. So he's okay, but again, I'd say nothing special. I would not be pulling Void Shards in a 10x for Urogrim, to be honest. For the Legendaries, again, I think they're decent, but not crazy. One of the weaker 10x. We got Dracomorph. Brilliant Demon Lord Clan Boss champion, and he's all right for some other stuff, but he's sort of been power crept. He's he's a solid legendary, but nothing crazy. He's got the decreased defense and weaken AoE, but like there's better Void legendaries that do it right for later game players. He's got poisons. He's got single target hits, so he does a lot of damage to some of those bosses. He's not bad, right? I do use him in Sand Devil 7, right, for speed farming the basic oils. He's okay, but nothing crazy. We have Calvalax. I actually rated Calvalax really highly in my Spirit Affinity tier list. I think I probably will mark him down a tier, though. Calvalax maybe not quite as useful as he once was, but still pretty good. His passive is great, puts out a bunch of poisons, and he just does that at the start of every round. And then he does have an AoE nuke that scales damage based off the poisons. I use him in my Spider Hard team. You could use him in your Dragon Hard team. He used to be a bit better because he was great for Ice Golem normal and Dragon normal. He's not so good for Ice Golem Hard anymore because the boss is immune to poison. But he's a cool champion, so he's pretty good, but maybe not quite as good for hard mode dungeons. And then the final one is Bad El Khazar, who again was brilliant for normal dungeons with the AoE poisons and healing and soloing Ice Golem and stuff like that. When it comes to the hard mode dungeons, he's still really good for Dragon Hard, but not so good for Ice Golem Hard anymore. So again, his value has gone down a little bit too, I would say, but he's still a solid champion. They're kind of like A-tier champions, but not S-tier champions in my mind. The Void Legendary is again sort of in a similar spot. It's Chigor. He's okay for Sand Devil, and he's good for Doom Tower stuff because he has this thing where when enemies are poisoned, he will use his default skill, and he has a good chance to sleep them. So that sleep is really good against Sand Devil. You can just sleep him and interrupt his turn. Really good for crowd controlling in Doom Tower waves in particular. So again, he's a good champion, but not crazy. So sort of my vibe on this 10x event is like, I'd be happy enough to get any of these legendaries, and I'd be happy enough if I was early game to get these epics. But these are not champions I'd be hunting for in a 10x. They're like, all right to pull, but not champions I'd be, saving for and going out of my way to get or buying shards for, anything like that. I think, like I said, I think the best of them is probably Calvalax. The best of the epics probably Venomage. Yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you think, but not too excited about it. So for me, again, for the Summon Rush tomorrow, is it in here? Yeah, for the Summon Rush, I'm probably going to do the minimum, right? I'm going to do probably 4 Sacreds to get the Jetney fragments and call it there and just try to conserve shards as much as possible. Is probably what I'm going to be doing. And then going in for the Ancient 2x event as well and comboing those two for doing the fusion. So if you've been following that and following my path through the fusion, that's probably what I'm going to do. But we'll see. Guys, look, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.